Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. This this movie is confusing for me. I'm still not 100% sure how I feel. First off, I want to start off saying no spoilers in this review. Um, Besides stuff that's in the trailer, like, hey, Palpatine's back. Guess what? That's in the trailer. You know that. But besides that, no spoilers. So, Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. This movie is rushed. This movie is a mess. I'm not even sure if it's a movie, but I still think I liked it. Like, there's definitely a lot of stuff I did not like about it. I'll get into that, but overall, it was still Star Wars in a way that the prequels, besides Episode 3, never were. Like I said, I feel the biggest problem with this movie is that it just feels rushed. They try to throw so much at you with so little time in this. It felt like it should have been like a 4-hour movie, and they just tried to rush everything forward. And say what you will about Last Jedi or even the prequels, those movies, at least told a concrete story in that amount of time, where this one, it just feels like they didn't. It just feels like they could have done something to stand out, but instead they took the easy way out and just kind of gave fans what they wanted. A lot of it retcons, a lot of Last Jedi, because fans didn't like that. They didn't like really take a stand. They introduced backstories for some characters that, while it was nice to go there, kind of took away from giving more character. I feel like there's no character development in this movie. The characters, notwithstanding, the characters all like were the same character they started the movie without. Which, one of my big problems for Last Jedi was that they went against the character development in Force Awakens, kind of retcon that. They take these characters and they just keep them the same. The action in it is solid. It's cool, but it doesn't feel earned. There's no time to breathe. It's just like one action sequence to the next, and there's no real character moments, barring a few. That being said, like, the character interactions, I think, were great. I think one of the great things about Force Awakens was this character interaction between Poe, Finn, and Rey, and I think that's really at the forefront of this movie. It's very good. They actually made me like Kylo Ren. I feel like Kylo Ren's kind of like been disserviced by the rest of the franchise, and I'm not going to say how his story goes, but you can probably predict how his story's going to go. But I think the way they did it was very satisfying. But speaking of characters, one of the big flaws with this movie is Princess Leia. You can clearly tell that the scenes with Princess Leia were definitely the scenes from Force Awakens. Like, the dialogue all works within the story, but the reactions, the tones, the expressions on her face were clearly not for the seriousness of what this movie was towards the end. And there are a couple scenes where I think really the choice they should have made was to recast Leia. I mean, Carrie Fisher, obviously an amazing person, amazing actress who brought so much to movies beyond just in Star Wars. She was a script doctor for a lot of 80s and 90s films. That she was a special kind of person. But to really give Princess Leia a satisfying conclusion, to really help the movie out and do what they wanted to do, they should have recast her, get someone great that could live up to honor the great Carrie Fisher. But she definitely takes away from the movie. Another returning character is Palpatine, and while I love Palpatine's one of my favorite characters, especially if you consider all his story in the prequels and Clone Wars and the novels, though I don't think they're all canon anymore, like the Darth Plagueis novel where he shines. And Palpatine, like, I love the scenes with him, but the fact that we never really get an explanation of her is like everyone just accepts Palpatine's back. Like I said, this movie feels rushed in that way, where they're giving us all this stuff we're just accepting, where it's like, hey, this is happening, and no one questions it, and they just go with it. I feel Force powers in this once again take another step too high. Like, before it was cool, like Jedis are like letting the Force flow through them, and I think the use of the Force by a certain character, not gonna say, don't want to spoil, is more true to how I vision the Force than the Force powers shown off by Palpatine or Rey or Kylo or other known Force users. The overall story, I think a big problem is that it's too big. They just keep going from here to here to here, introduce new characters, introduce new things, and it doesn't give it time to breathe. But the end of the movie, the climax, where we finally get the big Return of the Jedi ish moment. It doesn't feel as earned as it could, but I feel like they executed the entire last act of the movie. I really enjoyed. They tried to tie things up in a bow without tying it up in a bow, and it lets you question what the Force is. But I think the last act of the movie, I think, is more solid than most. I think it's Return of the Jedi, but better. I'm very intrigued as to where it'll go from here. Really, everything with Kylo in this movie I found great and satisfying, which is surprising because he's one of my least favorite characters. Try to say things without spoiling. I mean, overall, like I said, this movie, it's rushed. It doesn't feel earned. It does things I don't like, but at the end of the day, it was still Star Wars. It still felt like Star Wars. It's gonna be on the lower rank for me in the Star Wars movies. If anything, this made me kind of appreciate Last Jedi. So definitely thanks to Last Jedi. I did not like Poe's entire character in that movie because he goes completely against his character in Force Awakens. I think at least Last Jedi, like, it told a concrete story and it knew what it was gonna do. This movie felt too fan servicey. To, hey, the people wanted more action, more lightsabers, get more action, more lightsabers. The people didn't like the way Last Jedi answered some of the questions. Let's kind of spin that in a way without completely retconning it. And I think a flaw of this movie is that it had to deal with those choices from Last Jedi, but didn't want to. The way that JJ had a lot on his plate, he had to wrap up this trilogy. He had to satisfy fans that were disappointed in Last Jedi, and he had to wrap up the entire Skywalker saga. And I feel a big problem was that it tried to do all of that. And the only way you can do that is to kind of make it feel rushed. How do you tie it back into the original trilogy? Oh, Palpatine's back, and maybe he's the one that did the whole thing. Maybe he never died. We don't know. It's never explained. But the fact that you had to tie all that in to make this feel more connected to the rest of the saga, the fact that you had to send Leia off without having Carrie Fisher to reprise her, the fact that you still had to get a satisfying conclusion for Rey, Finn, and Poe, it was just all too much and too muddled. And like I said, I liked it. It was still Star Wars, and where it can go from here is interesting. I know they're not doing any more saga films, and I feel the way it ends kind of lends to that, but then it also leaves the door open in some ways. Like I said, I myself am confused doing this review, but overall, I liked it. Definitely lower tier Star Wars, in my opinion. Maybe on more viewings, I'll appreciate it more, but right now, this movie is a mess, but it's still Star Wars, and Star Wars is special. And the moment the crawl hit at the beginning of the movie, I was still... It's just that Star Wars crawl, that Star Wars music still just brings me so much glee and joy. And I'm excited to see where Disney will go in the new future. If anything, this movie surprisingly made me want to see things that aren't necessarily about the Force. These films have been so driven by the Force and the Jedi, and though I still want to see an Old Republic movie with all the Sith and all the Jedi, that'll be awesome. There's more aspects to the Star Wars universe they can explore. I feel some of their best films were Rogue One, which, definitely had some mystical Force, but wasn't all about, Jedi. And even Solo, I really enjoy, that had nothing to do with that besides, the Darth Maul cameo at the end. And I think this kind of brings the Force to a place where we don't necessarily need to see Jedi and Sith moving forward, or maybe there's a new use of the Force going forward and new things to happen. And it's like the era of the Jedi and the Sith as we've known it has kind of come to an end, and I think that's the best thing the movie did, was kind of not necessarily wrap everything up in a bow, but to feel conclusive. It feels more conclusive than Return of the Jedi did, even though that felt conclusive at the end. it feels like a good ending point, and now the slate is clean for Disney to do what they want, and hopefully next time they do what they want, they decide to tell a full story. So yeah, overall, I like the movie. I have problems with it for sure, um, but I feel like it was a tough movie to make. You had to do so many things, and JJ did the best he could. All looked great. And Ray, Finn, and Poe, like their characters being together most of the movie, getting all of their interactions was still great to see. I recommend still seeing it. I can understand people that hate it. I can understand people that love it. I'm somewhere in the middle. So please let me know what you think. Yeah, there's gonna be reviews on this channel when I feel like it. I haven't done a review in so long. I'm sorry this is so bad, so worded. But hopefully you enjoyed it. Please like, share, and subscribe as always. And hopefully we'll have other content soon. I don't know. I'll be living with my partner in crime soon, me and Rob, so maybe we'll make more content. See you then. Bye!